FSL interpreting requires at least 3 weeks advance notice. And I almost forgot to start the recording, so it's started now. We also have a variety of ways that you can do this and connect with us. So you can reach out using the email and phone number on the screen, and also by visiting any of these platforms shown on the screen. X, our YouTube channel, SNHU Connect, Handshake, and of course, Career 360. Great. So now let's get started. I will be your host for this session today. My name is Brooke Brigham, and I am a career engagement partner with our career services team. Before we introduce our panelists today, with the reactions above, feel free to clap or give me a thumbs up or a heart or whatever reaction is speaking to you. If you've been asked about EI on a job application or in an interview before, this is definitely a big topic that's been coming up that we're seeing on our end in a lot of different areas, and I'm thankful for your reactions. So EQ, what is it and why does it matter? EQ, EI, these are used very interchangeably. You can click on this link on the screen if you'd like as well. But the emotional intelligence, EQ, EI, is the ability to understand and manage emotions, which is essential for improving personal and professional relationships. So 5 core EI skills include self-awareness, self-regulation, ethical judgment, conflict resolution, and empathy. Let's talk about some of these benefits. And I promise this is short and sweet. I know we want to get to those panelists, but I figured we'd give a little overview to start here. So some of the benefits, EI supports the development of key career readiness competencies. So communication, teamwork, leadership, and NACE, or the National Association of Colleges and Employers, identifies EI as an essential skill for workplace success. Because emotions influence decision-making, collaboration, and how individuals engage with others, higher EI can lead to better teamwork, improved conflict resolution, and more effective leadership. Employers are increasingly seeking candidates who not only possess technical or academic skills, but can also demonstrate that emotional intelligence. And so I talked about this National Association of Colleges and Employers. They do a job outlook survey each year, and the survey goes to all employer partners that they have, and this showed an increase in employers' desire for these human skills in the workplace. And looking at these different skills. Can you all hear me still? Yes. Okay, my sound cut off for a second, so thank you. Thanks for the thumbs up. All right, so again, these are just a few benefits of the topic of EI. So for more information, let's turn it over to our panelists so that we can really get into the nitty-gritty here. So to meet our panelists today, I'm just going to call on each panelist one at a time here. We have some great organizations. Again, thank you all for being here today. We have Hackensack Meridian Health, Days Jewelers, Humana, and the American Heart Association. So I'm just going to move how the screen is here and start with you, Matt, if you'd like to introduce yourself to our group today.
All right, thanks, Brooke. My name is Matt DiBartolomeo. I'm the Manager of Academic and Community Recruitment for Hackensack Meridian Health, which is one of the largest health systems in New Jersey. So in my role, I partner with all of our recruitment teams to really develop and implement different strategy for creating entry-level and early career talent pipelines throughout our organization, including in the areas of allied health, hospitality, nursing, corporate, and physician practices. Before joining Hackensack Meridian Health, I worked in the higher ed industry for a little over 10 years, particularly in the admissions department for different universities and colleges in New Jersey. In terms of education, I hold a bachelor's degree in business administration from Ramapo College of New Jersey and a master's degree in public and organizational relations from Montclair State University, also in New Jersey. and I'm a certified professional in the Society of Human Resource Management. So happy to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Thanks for that introduction. I'm going to pass it over to Kara now.
Hi, I'm Cara Howard from Days Jewelers. I work as HR business partner there with emphasis on talent acquisition. Jewelry is definitely an emotional purchase, so emotional intelligence is vital in my organization. It's also not just vital for our external customers, but our internal customers too. That's how we develop teamwork and we make sure there's smooth operations in our team. So I'm very excited to be here too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cara. I realized I said Kara before. I'm sorry about that. I know we
No
talked
worries
about
at
that
all.
before. Thank you, Cara. All right. I'm going to pass it now to Kelly with Humana.
I didn't know which way you were going to go in the circle. Good morning, good afternoon. My name's Kelly Burke. I am a diverse talent strategy advancement lead here at Humana. That means in my day job, I get to own our strategy around our military connected talent pathways, as well as our neurodiverse talent pathways. And I say in my day job because what I do in addition to all of that is I am a social worker by trade. So I have my bachelor's and master's in social work. Gosh, this is going to make me sound like a giant nerd. I have an MBA. And I'm currently seeking my doctorate in social work at the University of Louisville. I am geographically located in Northern Kentucky, and my passion is around building effective teams, trauma-informed leadership, building psychological safety in teams. So all of those things require emotional intelligence to be effective. And within the corporate space, it really is, we've been saying it for a long time, but they didn't really know what to call it, right? And so now we know what to call it, and we know what it looks like, and we know how to ask about it and assess for it. And so I'm just excited to share with you all today why this is so important for you all. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Kelly. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. Sounds like you have a lot going on, but I know all of our students and even staff and faculty that are on the call today are juggling multiple things as well. So this is awesome that we have this relatable employer here with us. So thank you, Kelly. And Kathy, last but not least, please feel free to share.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me today. This is such a great conversation that we're going to get to have as a team here. So my name is Kathy Young. I'm the Director of University Relations for the American Heart Association. That means I lead our national internship program here. And prior to that, I did fundraising in the organization. So I have led large teams across multiple states, which takes a lot of learning how to team build and learning how to really navigate different cultures from Hawaii to California to Arizona. And so excited to have this conversation. Before that, I own my own businesses, and I'm a 6-degree black belt martial artist, which we teach people how to read others to stay safe. So there's been a lot of things like was discussed, didn't know how to name it necessarily back then, right? Other than situational awareness. But yeah, have been working on this in a lot of different ways over the course of my career.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that, Kathy. We have some great panelists here, everyone. Definitely going to be sharing some great information today with all of you. And I know there's questions already coming into the chat, so we're going to get started. Our first question, and I'm going to go ahead and let everyone answer this question, and then we'll kind of choose from there. But from your perspective, why is emotional intelligence such a critical skill in today's workplace? Someone want to jump in first? Go ahead, Kelly.
I was going to say, I can kick us off. Obviously, I think not a one of us have any problem with talking. That's why we're here today, right? So I'll try to keep it short since we're all going to talk about this one. But emotional intelligence is really essential because it enables individuals to navigate complex interpersonal dynamics, adapt to change, foster an inclusive, collaborative environments, it really is like the necessary ingredient for successful and engaging teams. And so when I think about it in today's diverse and kind of rapidly evolving workplace, right? Like we are seeing so many different things. And I feel like I've been hearing it for forever, like the workforce is not going to look the same in 5-10 years. But it really, I mean, I think it just continues to speed up. And maybe it's because I'm getting older, I don't know. But emotional intelligence just supports effective communication. It's conflict resolution, it's empathy, all of which really contribute to higher engagement, productivity, and organizational well-being. So I won't go any farther because again, I could talk about it forever, but I don't want to take anything from our other panelists either. So that would be my answer.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And, just knowing the impact on the workplace that emotional intelligence can bring, I'm sure that many of the panelists have probably worked in places that did not have high emotional intelligence, right? So what it does is that it creates a more positive work environment, and it could even inspire greater employee engagement, I think. And when it comes to recruitment, it can really create more retention among team members when there is the high EQ or EI in the organization. Also, just handling organizational challenges with greater effectiveness. What was mentioned was change in the workplace, and that's something that's inevitable, and that happens all the time. So having that adaptability, that really does require a high EI, and just communicating a vision that's compelling for an organization, providing constructive feedback to your team, to team members that is in a sensitive manner, instead of more like, you need to do this, you need to do that, but really inviting more of a conversation that requires high EI, and just really navigating those difficult conversations among employees. That's going to happen, right? And it's important to recognize those conversations as not just one way, but how you feel about it, but how does your employee feel about that as well, and just opening up that dialogue. So there's really so many different paths and so many different reasons why EI is important in the workplace.
That's great, Matt. And it's so true. There's many different aspects of EI when it comes to a leadership role, managerial role, or maybe you're not in one of those roles, but you still work on a team. And so thank you. Kathy, I saw you come off mute first. Do you want to go?
Yeah, I'll talk about it from the American Heart Association and why we value it so much. It really is, since the pandemic, we've gone hybrid. And so either teams are fully remote or hybrid and coming into the office, or not. And you can't have those coffee, those little water cooler moments like you used to, right? And just meet people face to face. You have to choose your voice and how you're going to use it. Is it an email? Is it a Teams chat? And that takes some nuance to it, right? Really meeting people where they are. But we're also a heavy volunteer organization, which means we're having to connect with survivors or potentially someone that just lost someone to heart disease or stroke. And so being empathetic and being able to lead with that is important, not only in your team and understanding how to create connections and adapt to change there, but also in making sure that we're, working with everybody from, CEOs right to those survivor families that we need to connect with and tell those stories. So there's a lot of different reasons for the American Heart Association to really care about this deeply.
Love that, Kathy. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your organization's view as well. Go ahead, Cara.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that's being said as well. But emotional intelligence, where it enhances your communication, it also inspires growth. So it inspires personal growth by self-regulating and understanding your own emotions, and then also organizational growth. So with that enhanced communication, understanding everybody's emotions on it, you also can push your company forward, and that becomes essential in the workplace.
Thank you, Cara. Okay, we have some great answers here, and I'm looking forward to diving in even deeper into this. So can you share an example of a time when strong EI made a difference in a workplace outcome? Does anyone want to give it a go?
Sure.
Go ahead, Matt.
Kathy, I think you mentioned COVID, right? And I work in a healthcare system, and that was something that really required strong EI, not just from our leadership, which they were just phenomenal throughout the whole pandemic, but really from our team members as well. They, especially our clinical team members, their doctors, nurses, nursing support, they faced the worst of the worst, and they did it with optimism. They recognized the strong EI that they have in terms of, being self-aware of understanding your own emotional triggers in a sense, and also to self-regulate certain emotions while you're facing patients. And also, just being able to have an outlet after work is really important as well. Whether it's taking vacation days or, having somebody to talk to, a counselor or a peer or a leader is really important. But yeah, I mean, we saw it throughout COVID through that, the first few months was really, really difficult. And that's when our senior leadership really stepped up the most, and they provided regular town hall meetings. They provided so many different resources to our team members to go to for that. And I thought that was really important. And that's why we were incredibly successful in terms of facing that pandemic, especially that first wave, but also the subsequent waves as well.
Thank you, Matt. Great example there.
I can share one. We had every summer we do a group project with the interns where they present to our COO. And for some, everybody's used to group projects from school and everything, right? But coming into a work environment, this can be different. Again, the teams, the interns are across the country, so they're remote. And there were 2 interns that just could not connect. It was just a struggle. And I'm a fixer, so I like to provide a solution. And so I have to be very intentional and remember that it's not my job to fix. It's my job to ask questions. It's my job to find tools and give tools that they can use, right, to come back together. And so while one wanted to just leave the group and not participate in the group environment, right, we had to provide some tools for communication, and then also set some boundaries and guidelines, right, that in a work environment, these are your coworkers. You can't just leave a project. There's a deadline. There are deliverables, and you have to find a way to navigate differences in communication, differences in work style to get to that end result. It's different than the school project. But that's where I have to sit, is really remembering what my natural tendency is and making sure that I sit back and give the tools so that they can grow on their own while they're here.
And that's modeling emotional intelligence, Kathy, is recognizing those things in yourself too.
Absolutely.
Love the big circle moment. Great answers here. I'm going to jump to our next question. How does EI show up in, and Kathy, you started hinting at this as well as Matt, but how does EI show up in leadership and team dynamics?
I'll get us started, Cara, since we didn't talk on the last one. But in leadership, when I think about it, and I've seen this across, so I'm thinking about Matt's comment on COVID. And we're a national company, and we have been doing remote and work from home well before it was cool. And still have quite a few of those roles, just based on the work that we do. So there were a large amount of individuals who there really wasn't a disruption in their workflow because they were already work at home, myself included. But then we do have a large number who did have that disruption, and we have home health folks, and we have primary care organizations. So there was this very just vast difference in everyone's experience, both in general and in the workplace, right? And so where we saw emotional intelligence show up in leadership was really the self-awareness, the empathy, the ability to keep people motivated and inspired. And I put it in chat, but Kathy, when you were talking about it, like, we do have to be so much more intentional when we have these individuals who are working remote, who are hybrid, whatever that might, like even actually hybrid. When you think about it from a teaching and learning and work perspective, the hybrid folks or teams are actually the hardest to manage and have be successful. If they're all virtual, it's better. If they're all in person, it's better. It's those combinations that are actually the hardest. And so that's where we do have to be the most intentional. But it's really the individuals who are able, like you said, to have that self-awareness, to model those things. And leaders with high emotional intelligence are really adept at managing their own emotions, at recognizing the emotional needs of their teams. And I think about in team dynamics, emotional intelligence really fosters trust. It fosters that open communication. We've talked about kind of leading with curiosity. It creates effective collaboration, and it really helps teams in navigating disagreements, like you talked about, and leveraging those diverse perspectives. Because, and one thing I'll double click on that too, when we talk about diverse perspectives, we don't necessarily like, we want to build intentionally diverse teams, but you don't have to even be intentional about building those for there to be diversity on a team, right? Like people are not monoliths for whatever dimensions of diversity they find themselves in. And so that even those individual things, like we talked about, like the differences in the experiences of dealing with COVID, that was a diversity in experience, and those are diverse perspectives. So it really helps to leverage and bring those things out.
Thank you, Kelly. Cara, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think understanding those diverse perspectives is vital for any leader, because that's the thing. You want to be a leader, not a manager. You can manage your own emotions, but you shouldn't manage people. You want to lead your teams. And to do that, you need to understand their motivations. So that's where emotional intelligence comes in too, is to understand what really motivates people, speak their language, enhance communication that way, and then kind of all move forward together, build relationships.
Such important pieces of the team aspect. And you all bring up a great point that brings us into our next question. So when you're hiring or when you're looking for people to be a part of your team or wanting to work with other coworkers that might already be on your team, how do you assess or notice emotional intelligence in those candidates or those teammates?
So we're an
I can try to take
employee-run
this one
company.
first. Oh, go ahead, please.
Go ahead. We're an employee-run company, so culture is really, really important to us too, the culture that we build together. So that emotional intelligence is really my first part in hiring too. It's talking to somebody, trying to understand their language, like we're talking about, and those diverse perspectives and how it's going to impact the teams already in place and really how it can enhance those teams already in place.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Kathy.
I think, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kathy.
I was going to let Matt go since he was still off mute, but thank you. So I'm going to keep it short. We look for adaptability and coachability, right? So talking to me about how you've taken feedback and processed that in the past. But for early career folks that I'm looking at, being able to take that feedback and improve and grow, that's going to be key to starting out successfully with us.
Yeah, I think during the interview process, asking certain questions where the answers could help you understand if a candidate does have that emotional intelligence in place. Questions such as like, tell me about a time when you faced a challenge and how did you approach solving that challenge, right? Or especially for early career folks, describe a group project that you had to work with maybe different personalities, right? Different folks from different backgrounds. How did you navigate that, right? So things like that where the answers to those interview questions, the self-awareness, the empathy can come out in those answers, I think would be really important as well to kind of determine.
And Brooke, I think I'm going to take us probably into one of your next questions. So I'm going to bridge that for us, and thinking about connecting the things that the rest of the panelists just talked about. So Matt just described behavioral based interview questions, right? Tell me about a time. So thinking about and being prepared, like, that that's going to be some of the questions that are going to come up. And I saw in chat, which by the way, y'all, I have multiple screens and my chat's over here and you all are over here. So if you see me looking around, that's what I'm doing. But I saw in chat, somebody was asking, like, how do we make sure that it shows up on our resume, or that how do we show this in an interview? And that is really your opportunity to do that, right? When you're answering those questions. And a good way to do that is thinking about making a story bucket, is what I call it, and then using the STAR acronym for developing your stories. So STAR is situation, task, action, result. So when you're thinking about, like Matt said, tell me about a time you had to deal with different personalities. Think of a time when you did have to do that, right? Like where you had to manage a group project. Or another one that I will often ask is, and I think Cara or Kathy said it, was tell me about a time that you had to receive some feedback that wasn't that great, or that you weren't expecting, or a project didn't go the way that you expected it to. Because I know that you're going to come with stories about how great you are. I want to know how you deal with situations when things aren't great, because that's where emotional intelligence is really going to show up, is how we deal with those difficult situations. And how you model that to me when we're having those conversations. Like, do you throw somebody else under the bus? Or are you taking responsibility? Like, yes, it didn't go the way that we wanted it to, but here's how I manage that. I can see and hear how you have that emotional intelligence. And even if those things are not like an amazing, STAR answer. But I can also assess, like, okay, you've got what we need to help you grow. Like, I can coach into that. We can lead into those things, as opposed to just hearing about, all the amazing things. I see that on your resume, right? Like, I see all the great things you did on the resume. I want to hear in that interview how we now take that, what sets you apart from those other candidates. And so I'll go back really quick to that story bucket. Write those things out. Think about some of those situations or questions that might come up. Write your answers out so that when you get in the interview and you're nervous and that interviewer asks you a question and suddenly there's nothing in your brain. And you're like, I know I have years of this experience. I thought about all this stuff. If you've written it down, you can take notes in with you. I encourage you to, like, have that paper there in front of you with some bullet points, so that when your brain goes blank, you can look down and be like, oh yeah, that's when I was working with Sally Sue and the whole project messed up. And then you can go into that story, right? And you can have those things, you can move through your STAR answer, and just come out even better for it on the other end.
Thank you for that, Kelly. And yes, definitely a way that we can showcase these specific behaviors and examples, and how our students can highlight them in an interview is so important. I see some links getting placed into the chat about the STAR method, about interviewing, some resources. So please feel free to check those out at any time. Now, we also have learners at SNHU that are looking to go into leadership roles, or are looking to get some type of career advancement within their organization. So what role does EI play within that aspect of that goal that they might have?
Yeah, I can try to kick us off here. First, I love what was just being said and the notes and all that. I do just want to say, we are encountering a lot of people reading answers. And so be mindful that if you are looking at notes, right, that just like was modeled by Kelly, hey, my Teams chat is over here and I'm looking at some notes, right? Let them know, oh, I have some notes, or I have some notes written here. Let me refer to those, so that we know that you're not reading an AI provided answer necessarily, right? So again, just having that emotional intelligence, if you will, of how the person might read your body language, read your behavior a little bit. So I just want to talk about that before I start in. But I would say the number one thing that really helps people move into leadership roles is the ability to read the room, the ability to know when to step up and when to step back, right? When to add value and when to hold, because you just don't need to say something to say something. That is a big thing. They also want to see that for us in a nonprofit, we're always being asked to do more with less. So resiliency is a key trait to being moved up into leadership, and how you can model that and how you can teach others, right, and help clear the path so that others can build that resiliency to be successful. So for us, I would say in leadership roles, showing resiliency, showing the ability to read the room helps you show that you have the EI to move forward to lead a team in the future.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent suggestion. I also would say that, just be willing to either volunteer or to work in different types of environments as well within your organization. With my organization, for instance, we have a professional development, leadership type of academy, especially for young team members that are just getting into the organization, starting their careers. We have a program called Walk in My Shoes, where it's more like a shadowing program where team members from, maybe more of a non-clinical area can shadow a team member from a more clinical area. So just to see exactly what a day in the life of, their work lives are. And really just, being able to be exposed to those different types of environments can better prepare you to really show that empathy and being able to know how to communicate with those different types of people, because everyone's different, right? And so I think it's important to really see those different types of work scenarios, work situations, and that can really kind of you can store that in your work bank, so to speak, and draw on those experiences moving forward. And that's an important aspect of being a leader is having those experiences along the way.
Thank you, Matt. So true. And I know Matt briefly mentioned an opportunity within Hackensack Meridian Health once hired. Dana, if you don't mind dropping it in the chat again, but we do have a collection through Handshake with each of these employers and opportunities within their organizations that have been highlighted for all of you. Thank you, Dana. So please feel free at some point to click that link that Dana just placed in the chat if you want to check out any opportunities available at any of these organizations. Kelly and Cara, did you all have anything you wanted to add before we moved on to the next question?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of mention that approaching leadership with an openness to learn, to have that continuous learning. So again, it goes into the diversity of it. We do have a manager and training opportunity too, where that's where we really get to push a little bit beyond, embrace those challenges. I think that's something that really matters there, and you need that emotional intelligence to navigate them.
And step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I'll be brief, but I would agree with everything that was said, and just that it really is, I think at this point in time, a career differentiator, a career progression differentiator for a lot of folks, especially as we see, again, I'll talk about the workforce shifting. This is going to be what sets you apart from other candidates. And so individuals with high emotional intelligence are really better equipped to lead, in my humble opinion. But they're able to, manage stress and drive positive organizational culture. Just all of the things that for-profit, nonprofit, large organizations, health system, doesn't matter what industry you're going into, it's what is going to set you apart as you look at that career progression.
Great point. And Kelly, you bring up another good point too. I'm going to ask one more question before we move into our student questions, because they are building up here. There's quite a few good ones. So my final question for you all: students can start developing their emotional intelligence even more right now?
I'd say play, pretend, experience art, and think of, pretend what other experiences might be with it.
A good one.
Yeah, I would say maybe like some self-reflection practices, like, journaling about emotional reactions to certain situations that you're in, seeking feedback from coworkers or from fellow students in classes, especially if you've worked on projects with them, would be something to do. Any sort of mindfulness techniques, active listening exercises. You know, a lot of emotional intelligence is, you know, trying to get feedback from others, but also, you know, listening and being, you know, really in intent to listen to what others have to say. I mentioned volunteering in different types of scenarios, different, you know, organizations, if you can. That would be really important as well. And, you know, us as organizations, we can help foster EI as well through, you know, the various training programs or coaching, mentorship programs as well. So it's not just what students should do, it's also what we as organizations and employers can do to really set the stage as well.
Great point. Kathy and Kelly, anything to add before we jump to student responses?
I mean, I love the reflection activity, you know, and there's plenty of apps out there for that too. So whether you know, kind of keep a journal somewhere, it could be a written journal, or it could just be an app that you pop up, and at the end of the day, think about, you know, you can call it your leadership journal, right? And it's your future into that leadership role and how you're developing that EI. I also think mentorship is important. You know, where are those trusted folks that can give you real feedback, but not a mentor in necessarily, this is my career path, but who's your emotional intelligence kind of mentor, right? Somebody that you are like, they really connect with others. Look at how they're dealing with change. Look at how they're dealing with stress. And I want them to help me with that. So we can have mentors for different things. And I think that can be a good tool for folks.
Yeah, and my advice is very similar to that, and thinking about getting yourself your own personal board of directors. And these are people that are going to tell you the truth, that aren't going to tell you necessarily what you want to hear. You know, and so thinking about if there's a situation, it's kind of taking all of those things that everybody talked about, right? Like get in those situations and kind of think how they might happen. So your pretend or fake it till you make it type of thing is like what's going on there. Having that self-reflection, the journaling, having that mentor. But then when a situation happens, you go to that board of directors and you say, here's what happened. How do you think I handled that? How do you think I could have done that better? What did I do well? Like, get that feedback from others who have that kind of emotional stake in you, but will still be willing to tell you how it is, right? And where you can improve and how to get better with that. So you have those additional perspectives, because sometimes we can also get in that thing where like, well, I think I did fine, you know, it was this or that. And we start explaining that stuff away. And really it's like, well, yes, but, and so having those individuals who are going to give you that straight talk, I think is very important.
I love how you summarized all of that too, Kelly. Just great advice from our panelists here. Thank you all for putting up with me and answering those questions. There's some just a great advice pouring through. We are going to jump now to questions from the chat. Thank you, Dana, for putting all of these together for us. So first question, aside from seminars like this, books recommended in this chat, what other methods do you recommend, perhaps even on the job, to further develop emotional intelligence? Are there any books you would recommend on this topic, or any book recommendations about EI that you all can recommend? I know we mentioned some programs within organizations, some mentorship, reflection. Does anyone have any other methods for preparing on the job or book recommendations?
I would just say, I mean, we kind of went into a lot of those things that individuals could do, but it really is prioritizing developing that self-awareness and empathy. That is going to be your biggest thing when you really start, and it's a muscle, right? Like any other muscle, you got to train it, you got to practice, you got to keep doing it. But the more that you do it, the easier and the less you'll have to think about it. But building that empathy muscle, building that self-awareness, that ability to understand and manage yourself, I think is going to be what's going to do the best for you. And Brene Brown does an amazing job of talking and helping explain like what is empathy, how does that differentiate from sympathy, and some of these other things we hear about, and give some good practical tips on how to build that empathy muscle. But that would be what I would say.
And Kelly, I'm going to keep the spotlight on you because this is a question for Kelly. What are you seeing as trends in neurodivergent talent, and what needs do you think are missing in that space?
That's a really great question. It's a long answer, so I'll try to put some guardrails around it with it. But unfortunately, the trends have not necessarily changed because we haven't resolved them completely. But what I will say, a really great trend is awareness. So I think there are a lot of companies, there are a lot of people who just have a greater awareness of what neurodiversity is and how it might show up in different spaces. I still think there is a lot of opportunity for us to build in things like universal design in the entirety of the career process, right? From applying to interviewing to getting the job, onboarding, all the way through. Universal design, having those supportive things that individuals don't have to ask for, right? They're just there and they benefit everyone. I think the other thing is thinking about, and it's kind of a personal choice, right? Is that a lot of neurodiverse individuals, some will kind of talk about that as a disability, not in a negative way, but it's a disability. Others don't see it as a disability. And both are fine, right? But that both perspectives can create a different pathway for individuals and how they manage that, especially in the workplace. And so leadership needs to understand kind of both of those perspectives so that neither falls through the cracks or has any negative outcomes. But again, very, very long, involved answer that could go to that. But that would be my most concise that I could do right now.
It's a topic that would probably need a whole other panel and workshop. So thank you for that, Kelly. Our next question here is, how would EQ be applicable in a more corporate environment like software development? Would this look at your relationships with your peers or also impact the customer level?
Yeah, I think it's still. Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy. It's still important in the corporate environment, whether you work in marketing, accounting, finance, IT. Having that empathy, that self-awareness, self-regulation, and just the social skills, right? Effective communication, effective conflict resolution or conflict management would be important. And even when it comes to customer or client relationships, right? Those also strengthen when team members, when employees demonstrate EI, right? The ability to possibly read client emotions, respond to concerns with empathy, manage difficult interactions that you have with the client in a professional manner. Those can all lead to higher satisfaction, higher loyalty, positive word of mouth from clients. Right. So even if you don't work in healthcare or in other areas, if it's a more corporate, and corporate has kind of a negative connotation at times, right, where it's very just bland and emotionless, but that's really not the case. And these Fortune 500 companies that are rated as really great brands, a big component of that is they believe in having a high EI culture along the way. So I think that it still matters in the corporate field.
Thank you, Matt. And Kathy, I'm going to throw this next question over to you because I know you talked about the hybrid and virtual space. So the question is around, and there's been a couple questions about this, but can EI give an advantage for these students or these folks asking the questions, trying to find a job that they can work remotely in? So talking about EI a little bit more in the hybrid space or remote space.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can. I think it's important in all spaces, right? And in fact, I think can be even tougher to read a room when everybody is doing this. right?
true.
How do you read the room when I'm just looking at an icon that someone has and they won't even turn on their cameras? And so, being able to connect with others, being able to understand communication flow, how do you fit into that team, right? But it's really about showing that you can, again, show that versatility and overcoming challenges, how you take feedback. People are going to give written feedback a lot of the times, right? Or you're going to get these short communications. And if you're a reactive person, sometimes you can't get the, the inflection that somebody might be trying to share in a voice to voice conversation. So understanding, all of those different nuances really, really make a big impact when you have a hybrid or a fully remote job. And if that's what you're looking for, being able to show examples of how you took feedback, how you made change, how you showed resiliency, but also how you were able to deliver on deadlines, right? So, whoops, that was an accident. How you were able to deliver on deadlines, in this kind of an environment shows your resiliency and shows that you're able to meet the team in a place where they need to be. And that reduces everyone's stress when you can give examples like that.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Kathy. So next question, and this student happens to be in the Navy. How can emotional intelligence practices be integrated into high-tempo operational environments to support decision-making and team cohesion?
Well, I will take a pass at that particular question, only because I am not military connected myself, but have been very much immersed in the military connected atmosphere since coming into this position and owning the strategy around that talent pathway. And so what I have seen very often is that those are spaces where emotional intelligence is potentially needed more than a lot of other spaces, right? Like if a leader in those spaces does not have emotional intelligence, the entire operation can easily fall apart, because emotional intelligence builds that psychological safety. It builds that ability to communicate effectively. And for example, if you're in a situation where you need somebody who's under you to tell you about a potential problem, they need to have the psychological safety to come to you and say that. Again, psych safety and emotional intelligence doesn't negate accountability, but it means that we can have those conversations and we can talk about those things to try to come to a solution and fix it. I think about some of the space programs where, it was like a screw was loose and somebody knew about it and they didn't say it and the whole thing blew up. Like they just didn't have that space to be able to say those things. There wasn't that emotional intelligence within that team to talk about those things. And there were significant consequences that came from that. So when we think about how to implement emotional intelligence in those high stress, high tempo, as you put it, type of spaces, I think it's really just being, again, that muscle, being more intentional about it. It's going to be about reading the room and how that might fit within that specific culture, but it's still very important. It's still very possible. It just might look a little different, but it's definitely needed and it's definitely a possibility.
Thank you, Kelly. And we're getting close to time here, so I'm going to try to fit 2 more questions in. There's a bunch more, but Cara, I'm going to throw this one over to you. So how do you lead and control your emotions when it comes to empathy? It's a tough
You
one.
definitely need to yeah, it is. Definitely have to be aware of your own emotions. And it does take a lot of self-regulation to kind of separate what's yours and what's other people's emotions. Empathy is a big thing. It's a big, powerful thing too. So to be able to empathize with somebody and not have it control your own emotions takes a lot of practice. So definitely take those quizzes out there to kind of understand your own emotions, so that will help you regulate it better. But I think self-regulation is very important.
Thank you, Cara. Yes, we have a lot of assessments also on our Career 360 website. That brings up a great point, Cara. So please feel free to check those out too. I'm going to close us out with one last question here. I feel bad just picking one. There are so many. But what recommendations do you all have for someone developing EI during an internship? Want to try that one on?
Since I
Go
lead
ahead.
an internship program, I guess I'll take this one.
Thank you, Kathy.
So, I tell people when they ask what's the most important skill that you're looking for, I hire for every role from finance to fundraising to data science, all across our organization. And the number one universal thing that I say is the confidence to ask questions. If you aren't asking questions and able to get feedback, then you cannot grow in this area. The number one thing that you need this manager, if they're going to hire you long-term, to buy into is that you can take feedback and be coachable and grow. You have a short time to make that impact. Getting on the same page with your manager quickly, building confidence and trust with them is what emotional intelligence can do. And so you need to be able to do that quickly. So asking questions, taking that feedback is key.
Thank you, Kathy. And thank you all for your answers today. Please, if you can find the react, throw up an applause or a heart or something, because this is just phenomenal advice that has been shared. Thank you, panelists, so much. I know that we had a lot more questions that were asked in the chat. And so we'll make sure to send that along to our panelists if they can answer. But this actually brought us into some just great advice. Kathy, your last question was a good segue here. So if you are on today and interested in diving deeper into emotional intelligence, please feel free to check out our virtual career center, Career 360. There are so many opportunities to dive into emotional intelligence even more by looking at the resources. I posted a couple LinkedIn learning courses on the screen here, gaining emotional intelligence experience for your resumes and more. And of course, you can always reach out to our career services team if you have more questions or are looking for more information that we haven't shared today. Finally, join us and stay connected and engaged on SNU Connect. So we actually have a career networking community on SNU Connect, so feel free to check that out. And then finally, with the last minute we have here, I have a quick poll that should come up on your screen shortly. So it's a word cloud. So in one word, please add one word that describes how you'll apply what you've learned today. And you can place your response. A big thank you. I love that. Please place your response. Either it comes up in the chat or on screen here. So one word that describes how you'll apply what you learned today. So yeah, we have the power of pause coming into the chat. It's great. Lots of thank yous. It gets bigger as the responses get more. Oh, there we go. Open-minded, listening, empathy, reflection, psychological safety. I love all of these that are coming up. Please keep adding them in here. I'm going to add another poll to the chat just so I can be mindful of time. So, do you feel better? Do you feel you better understand how emotional intelligence applies in the workplace after this session? So 1 star, not really. 5 stars, yes, definitely. I hope we get a lot of 5-star ratings there. But thank you all again. If you'd like to continue responding to these polls, you can. They come up in the chat as well, so you're welcome to add those in. I know I see a lot of definitelys and 5 stars coming up. Feel free to add that on the screen too. But I'm glad. I appreciate the feedback. All right. So, and without further ado, thank you again to all of our panelists today, Cara, Kelly, and Kathy, and Matt. Thank you all so much for jumping on. You all don't even know the amount of questions that we have gotten here. So this was such an active and lively presentation. Thank you all so much for your time, and thank you all for jumping on today and listening to this webinar and panel on emotional intelligence. So I hope everyone has a great afternoon, the rest of the day. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you for the conversation and insight.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take
Bye,
care.
all. Thank you.